All right, we continue our post-race news conference. Again, welcoming Josef Newgarden, now a three-time winner at Texas Motor Speedway, winning today's PPG 375, 26th career win now in the IndyCar Series. He led 8 times for 123 laps, jumps up to fourth in the championship. We're going to get to the maybe the people are ready for us for good challenge, which you're back in play again for. So that's kind of cool. But anyway, nice cowboy hat.
Thanks. I don't. Is this on?
It's on. You're on.
I don't know if my fit's right. I apologize to any real cowboys that would make fun of my fitment. But it's great to be here, and it was a great day. We had a great car. I mean, I don't know what else to say other than our car was fast. You know, that's what made the difference. I sort of detuned it middle of the race, and Pato ran up on us and got by us, and then was kind of walking away, and then we got the tuning back, which was really great. We just kind of reversed everything that I'd asked for. And got it in a happy window, and we're in position at the end. So I don't want more to say than that. Team Chevy, PPG, was just a great weekend for us, good team effort, and we're on the board.
Yeah,
we are on the board. We were not on the board leaving St. Pete. We are on the board now.
I was going to ask you about the bounce back. That's got to feel pretty good too, right?
Yeah, it's great. I mean, look, I would have liked to have started under better circumstances after round one, but here we are playing a little bit of catch up, and we got a long way to go. I'm just happy we were able to get this done today. It was good affirmation for the whole team. I'm really positive on our team. We've got a great group, across the board, but really on the two car, there's a lot of changes, and they're really good. And so I'm happy they were able to be, I'm happy they were able to be shown what they're capable of this weekend, because I know it, and now I feel like they're going to really believe it going forward.
All right, questions in person, and for those of you joining us on Zoom, we'll try to take a few of your questions as well. So go ahead, our hands up in the middle. Garrett has the microphone. Let's begin up front here with Jenna Fryer.
Hey, Joseph, congratulations.
Thanks.
Did you and Pato touch wheels with 2 to go?
Yeah, we did.
You did?
Right in the dog leg there. That the second apex we just touched, kind of headed into the T1. Wasn't as bad as the hit I had with Roman, but it was a light touch. Yeah.
How was Roman out there? Seems people have many opinions.
I mean, I'm fine. I'm cool. Look, everything worked out fine for it almost didn't work out. It gets tight. It gets tight in IndyCar, and it got tight for me, but I came out the other side. So I've got nothing to complain about right now. I'm very happy.
Were you just biding your time there? Like,
oh yeah.
You were that good that you. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it looked silly if we led out the whole race. So just trying to keep it fun. People would have said it's a conspiracy for PPG. I didn't want to see that happen. So
that's very good of you.
I let Pato have his fun, and then had to put him away. No, I'm just kidding. That's not what happened. We were getting beat pretty significantly in the middle of the race. I thought at the beginning of the race we had him like super covered, and the car was good. Then the track gripped up, and I asked for some progressions on the setup, and they were not right for the way the track was trending. And I think Pato went the right way. He did the exact opposite of what I was doing, because they were telling me what he was asking for. And we were really bad in the middle. And he just, he snuck back up on me I had a big gap on that stop. He snuck back off on me and just was walking away. And so I was like, we just got to get through this stint and try and catch back up. But he had such a big lead at that point, it was going to be difficult. So the caution 100% brought us back into it. And then we got the car back to where it needed to be. And when we were in position, we could get the job done. But we were not significantly, better than him. He was just as good. He was definitely better in the middle, but at the end, he was just as good. I mean, it was going to be it could have gone either way, in my opinion, between our cars.
And my last question, I asked Pato and Polo this as well. The end in the final third of the race, there's a lot of like 3 wide passing. What wires you guys to get in there and do that?
I think it's the Jimmy Johnson effect. We were here last year and people were like, what? This Jimmy guy, look at him. He can do it. They're like, he's not better than us in an Indy car. I think Jimmy Johnson basically gave everybody confidence this weekend. It's obviously more than that. That we've got a lot more downforce on the cars. The lanes were working pretty well. How great was that to see? There was a second lane. I mean, this was a real race today, which was fantastic. But I think in this sport, you definitely can't think about the potential. It's just you got to go, pretty flat out if you want to drive the cars at a high level. You just can't. It's impossible to drive these things at the level you need to without blocking everything else out. So I think that's what you get from a lot of drivers here.
Let's go Nate, and then Bruce, and then Marshall Pruitt.
Nate Ryan, NBC Sports. Joseph, following up on the racing and the second lane, was it a combination of aero changes, tire deg, traction compound kind of fading? Like what was it that made the racing what it was today finally?
I think the biggest factors are the downforce increase, which was significant. There's a lot more load on the cars. That's, we're not lift that entire last stint. I was flat the whole time, and flat for most first half of a stint. So it's a big jump from last year. That's definitely factor number one. And I think factor two was just that the track seemed better this year. Like it was not quite as dark on the PJ1 patches. I know that the last time they coated was September last year. So it's not like it had that's what I was told, at least in our briefing. Maybe that was incorrect.
No, it's accurate.
I don't know. I checked with the track. I think it's been a few years since
I saw two reports.
They put the resin down, but they don't put the PJ1 down anymore.
Correct.
That's the critical sort of.
I apologize. That's what they said in the report. They said they put resin down then, which I don't know. I mean, I'm not a chemist. I have no idea what these effects are. But the track was better. It just was less dark in the area where the PJ1 has been applied. And it didn't seem as low grip initially as times when we've been here in the past, where, someone, even when everyone tried the Highline running, it wasn't like, oh, you ventured up there just to start out and it's really low grip. Pretty much immediately when we went up there, it was okay grip. And so I think that was much more inviting for people. They have more downforce, and we were just able to more successfully apply rubber to it from our cars. So I think all of that contributed and just led to the type of racing that we had today.
A big picture question for you. Last year, there was a lot of questions about the future of this place. It was not a good crowd last year. This year, obviously, the racing's much better. Certainly more people were here. But there's still potential for this track maybe changing in the future, the resurfacing or doing some sort of other configuring. Like, what's your take on that? I mean, on one hand, is it like, hey, great, we got the racing back. But on the other hand, you don't want the track to be changed?
I just want to see, Texas race the way it should race. I think most people would look at today and say that's how Texas should race. You could, you look at the past, it's even been taken up a notch from that. You go 3 wide the entire time. So, I wouldn't want to see that. I think you can go too far nowadays. I really like high tire deg. I like when people, come and go and you've got to work your advantage and you really got to work with trying to keep the car underneath you. I think we're just kind of a step above maybe where I like to see the cars at, but I know from an entertainment standpoint, this had to be, significantly better than last year. It just had to be. I mean, it felt packed up, for most of the race and definitely at the end. So, where we go from here is hard for me to say. Old Texas was hard to beat. The configuration that we used to run on here was really good. And obviously the track surface was better for us. We could run all 3 lanes. I'd love to see that back. And then maybe we can start peeling some downforce back off the cars. But with trying to, if you go and try and find that again, we might not get it right. So I don't think I have a great answer for you. We've had the product we've had, at least as far as the track, and we've just chipped away at it. And, by this year we've gotten it really good. So, I don't have a good answer for you.
And last one for me, you told us in the bullpen a couple of days ago, just, you put St. Pete behind you, but and I know that like a lot of these guys are your guys, like you were just saying, but like when you make an engineer change and you have a race like that to start, were there any sort of concerns or niggling sort of like coming into this race? Or
not as far as the crew, I can tell you that. It's every year. I mean, I don't care. I'll say this, and it doesn't bug me, but every year there's a reset for personally. When you sit out for 6 months, you kind of you start to think like, okay, are we gonna be able to do I still believe we can do what we were doing last year? Because I know exactly where we were last year and what we were capable of. And I said some statements towards the end of the year, and these were not like, grandiose statements like that. They were true as what I said and what I believed was possible on the 2-car. But, you go through 6 months in an off season, and you start to wonder if that's still true and we're still capable of that. So leaving St. Pete, I think I had those. It's always natural to have those thoughts. I was ready to get here to Texas and just, get on the board is what I say. And so today is very validating for stuff like that. It just validates my, my self-positivity, but it just even more so affirms what I felt about the team. I know how good the people on the 2-car are. It doesn't matter that they're new. I know who is on it. I know what they're capable of. And we're, I hate making these type of statements, but we're in a really good spot. Really good spot.
Bruce?
To go back to back at Texas Motor Speedway, I believe Elio's done it in the past, but it's quite an achievement. How proud are you of being able to do that?
I'm proud of the team. Honestly, obviously personally it's satisfying, but I think it's more gratifying. Yeah, I'm going to just continue to repeat and echo, but it's really gratifying for the people that are on the car. There's a lot of new people on the 2 cars specifically. And, I know each individual and what they can do. And so just coming back and repeating is big validation for all of them. And I think gives them a lot of belief. And so we're going to leave here, in a good spot, but look, you can't take anything for granted. It's very easy for this championship to swing one weekend to the next. It's entirely possible that we go to Long Beach and we have a tough weekend. That can happen. But I think we just got to focus on having good, clean weekends going forward. Everybody knows the game in here. It's a game of averages, across the season when you look at the championship, and we've got to be the best at that.
And when you went 3 wide in the 3, I believe it was Alex Palou or Pato may have said that, you had to do that or you were going to get run over. Was that really, you got to go for it then or else?
That's pretty much go forward or you're exposed. That was the racing style. There was no like, oh, I'm just going to sit here and ride. Like you're in a risky position by doing that. So I think your mentality had to be, I'm going forward.
And also at the end, you're side by side with Pato. Had the race gone all the way to the green, what was your strategy going to be able to just nudge ahead of him if you had to?
It's hard to say. We were building to the white, and I was watching the runs every lap and kind of trying to gauge what I needed to do and where I needed to be. But I think the difference maker for our car was that it just had really good speed. It had really natural speed to it, and I felt like it was a little bit quicker than Pato's car, which, in the past when I've raced him here, I felt the opposite. I actually felt like Pato had a really just quick car innately, and today was the complete opposite for me. My car had the speed it needed, so it was about just keeping positioning where I was. I think that was the key, just don't let him get underneath me, basically.
And during a portion of that race, were you just laying back a little bit in the weeds, conserving the car because you had that speed at the end?
Oh no, I wasn't. I mean, I was full throttle the whole race. Genuinely, I was trying to build a gap early, and we were doing that. And then we got kind of in, we got into the weeds in the middle when I was, asking for adjustments that weren't the right way. And then at the end there, I was giving it everything. I gave it everything the whole race.
Thanks, Bruce.
No, it's a one-time deal. Yeah.
Let's go on the far
I
side
do.
here.
That's fair.
Gentleman in the black hat. There we go. Thank you. Go ahead, Marshall.
Joseph, last year you sat here and I got to ask you about winning your first race with your new engineer, Eric. I don't know what it is about you, Texas, and new engineers, but you've done it again with Luke. Tell me about this. It seems like a pretty powerful combination already. And then in the spirit of Wolfgang, I have a second question.
I love it. I'm excited. Well, I think the world of Luke, and I guess just to look back a year ago, I felt the same way about Eric. I think Eric did a tremendous job for us in 2022. I can't speak highly enough about the job that he did. And then for Luke to step into the role, I've just got a high level of confidence in that man. He is excellent. He is just so excellent at what he does. He is a phenomenal race engineer. And you got to understand the definition of race engineer to really understand that praise, but he is phenomenal. So I'm excited for him, and it obviously extends much further than Luke. Luke has a great team behind him. James Schnabel, we got Mustafa, aka Simba, is on the stand now. He's a new guy on our team doing performance and helping Luke, and then you've got the entire crew obviously behind him. So it's a big team effort, but I think the world of Luke and the entire team. And just to repeat, I feel really good about where we're at.
I didn't get to go to Victory Lane. I know last year your pockets were filled with $100 bills peeled off from Roger Penske. Any gifts this year?
Yeah, Hazzy, he brought ice cream sandwiches, and that's almost as good as $600. For me, they're similar. It's
so if I bring you
ice cream,
you'll give me $600.
Hey,
that's a deal.
I value ice cream sandwiches tremendously. It's all perspective. No cash though, unfortunately. shut the valve off this year.
More questions? Go ahead.
Justin Schuler, Kicking the Tires. Congratulations. I asked Pato this earlier, and I want to ask your thoughts on it. But you're kind of alluding to it earlier with that one stint where Pato you pulled away and was lapping everybody like you guys were having another race, almost like you guys were in you two on the lead lap. Did you feel at that point like maybe the race was starting to slip away from you at all, or?
Oh,
Like,
definitely. It started. Yeah. I mean, sorry to cut you off. I think I know where you were going, but it was slipping away. It can happen that quickly. It was one stint that was really not good. I could see where Pato was strong, and I, in a lot of ways, I thought he was just right in step with us, even to start the race. Even when I would start to pull maybe a second on him, he could pretty much match us, straight up. So he was very good. And then I detuned us in that stint, and he tuned in his race car into the correct direction. And he just really took advantage of that particular segment of the race. So for sure, I was really worried about, did I just compromise the finish here? Because he's gotten a big gap on us. But you got to stay positive, and we fortunately had a yellow that bunched us back up and gave us an opportunity.
So you feel like that yellow is what potentially saved your race then and saved your day?
It's hard to say. Maybe we could have run him down. I think it would have been tough. I would like to think on the flip, if I could have gotten that advantage on him in the middle, then I would have, beat him pretty straight up with no yellows. He probably would have done that to us. I think it would have been hard for me to catch up. So that's how quickly, the race can change, and just one stint can walk you back. And that's essentially what happened to us.
So in your mind, you would have done the race strategy-wise the exact same way if this race had played out no matter what?
Yeah, strategy-wise, I think I have no qualms with what we did. I think it was the right stuff. I would go back and completely revert what I asked for in the middle of the race, tuning-wise. I think I would have gone the opposite direction in hindsight. Now, fortunately, we got it right for the end. I sort of learned from that bad stint what we did wrong, and then we got it back.
Go ahead. Hey, Jack.
What was the car doing in that bad stint? Was it handling wise? Can you kind of describe how it was feeling at that point?
Yeah, I thought we were balanced really well in the beginning, and if anything, maybe working towards a little loose. And I thought the track was going to really come to us, and so I didn't want any changes. I just wanted to leave it. And I could hear Pato was asking for front wing. He wanted to add turn to the car, as we were building into the race. And so we went kind of somewhat opposite directions, because after the first stint, that was the first stint I was talking about. Then we got into the second stint, and I felt the same way, and we actually took wing out. So we just went opposite ways. He put wing in, I took wing out, and after that second stop, it was very clear that I needed to be probably building with the track. Track grip was coming up, and so I was pushed into the fence when he was racing me, and that's kind of how he got by me. He was just holding the outside and could look like he could just run flat, and I had to be lifting. I was gonna run into him if I didn't lift. So that's kind of where I was, in the state of our car. And then we just unwound all that stuff and started going the right way and got the car in a good spot.
There's a strategy call that was made. I don't recall which lap it was, but you pitted under caution and then you came back like 5 laps later and topped off. And I guess that could have been a race-winning move if things had have gone differently with the cautions at the end of the race. So can you talk us through that strategy call? Was it something you were asking for? Was it something that was that a team decision, or how did that work?
No, I mean, that's all team, all TC probably. Tim is, you're going to be hard pressed to find a better strategist than Tim. He's just got a good feel to these races, and it was a great call. If there was no other yellows to the end, I think that was probably the call to win. And then obviously it changed the game again, and Pato, luckily for them, that brought him back in. They got another shot to come back into it. And I'm glad we made the call we did to get tires as well, because then we were just match for match with him, which was probably pretty critical.
David?
Joseph, spinning off the lap car question, we saw a bit of a different race today with lap cars. In fact, at one point, you and Pato had the field lapped. That's different than kind of what we're used to with IndyCar oval racing, particularly at places like Indianapolis and Gateway, where we kind of see a clog happen when you guys catch the back of the field. Was there anything different about this particular package at Texas that made lapping cars easier for fast guys?
Yeah, the second lane, there still was degradation. I think for the first third of the stint, almost to the first half, you had people really packed up and congested. So it wasn't like people were falling off a cliff really early, but you still had the degradation on the second half of the stint. And so when that started to build in, you just had somewhere to go, and that's the big thing you need. You've got to have racing room. You can't just, at high speed places like this and even short ovals, you just can't follow super well in direct wheel tracks. It's possible, but the racing is more difficult. When you have real estate to put your car in a different spot, it makes the racing 10 times better. So that's really all you saw, is that there was just real estate to use this time around.
Anyone else in person? Otherwise, we'll take a couple off Zoom. Let's start with Nathan Brown from the Indianapolis Star. Nathan, unmute yourself. Go ahead.
Hey there, Joseph. A while back, I know you mentioned some of the changes in setup and configuration that IndyCar brought between the added downforce and some of the pieces you guys were able to use. Generally speaking, was a lot of that what you guys had been clamoring for several years, particularly since the addition of the aero screen? Is this configuration kind of what you guys have been hoping you guys would eventually get to here?
Well, it's a tricky balance. I mean, they've been doing this. They've been putting downforce on every year, and you don't want to go too far. I mean, I know I don't want just a straight up pack race. I really don't. I think it takes out too much of the skill. I mean, you want the skill of tire degradation, where you've got to make a good car and you've got to learn how to drive it, but you need some element of a packed up race, and certainly the beginning of stints, to make the show good and to make that also part of a challenge in the race. But I just don't want that the whole way. So, IndyCar is always walking a fine line, and they've been adding downforce every single year. And so I think it's been a combination of finding enough downforce on the cars. Unfortunately, just sometimes takes this long to get that right combo. But I think more than just the downforce, it's really been the track. I think 2-3 years ago, it wouldn't have mattered how much downforce you put on the car. You still weren't going to use the second lane. It was unusable. So it's not just been the downforce. It's been a combination of getting the track better, and stopping the PJ1 being laid down as greatly improved that. So I wouldn't put it just on a downforce or configuration thing. It's also been the track kind of coming back to where we've needed it.
Gotcha. I know there were some questions with you guys having not run since the truck race ran last night on track, and whether the Goodyear rubber being down across the track would undo any of the work that you guys did in the high lane. Obviously, we saw from the passing that we had a pretty exciting, incredible race out there. Did you sense any of that being an issue even early on, or was the work you guys did yesterday in combination with some of the changes in the package, was that just able to provide you guys a good way to run too wide, at least in the turns, pretty quickly on?
Yeah, from my perspective, no negative impact from the trucks. I mean, and I really felt like the trucks wouldn't negatively impact us. Obviously, their rubber is not a match to ours, but I thought just the more cars circulating and running multiple lanes would ultimately be better. There's always the inherent reduction in grip on the start of our race when trucks have been on. You got to give it a good 10, 15 laps to clean up their rubber. But I think from a long-term standpoint in the race, it was never going to be a negative to what we had done. And it wasn't. It did not unwind the work we did the day before. If anything, it helped it more.
Great. And one last question for you. I know maybe this will take some time to think on, and you only really kind of know what your race experience was rather than watching the whole thing like we did on TV. But if you can entertain me for a second, thinking about how exciting this race was from your vantage point, can you think back to the last non-Indy 500 that you felt like IndyCar oval racing was as exciting as it was today here at Texas?
Yeah, hard to say. I mean, it's been through a lot of configuration changes over the last 10, 15 years, I mean, I remember old school Texas, like, 06, 07. I mean, I would consider that pretty old school for this track, if it started in the late 90s. And it was classic, like nighttime, 3 wide, all the sparks, everybody packed up. It was just that was a different style. That was a different time in IndyCar, a different era. I really think today was it was a good mix. I'd probably take a little downforce off if you asked me. I don't like it super packed up, but I think today was a very good mix between the two worlds, of not having a pack race, but also having a difference maker, where there's tire degradation and you have to work as a team to figure that puzzle out. So I was really happy with today. On ovals, that's what we need. I think at Indy, we search for something like that. It's a different race than Texas. Indy is not Texas, so I don't know that we can compare those two. But trying to find this balance with downforce and grip is kind of it's always the game nowadays. We're just trying to find that right balance where there's not too much, but enough to help the show.
Awesome, great, Joseph, and again, congrats on a great win today.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thanks for checking in, Nathan. Just a final follow-up. People ready for us for a good challenge? I'm assuming, Joseph, it's back to Wags and Walks and
as far the charity,
charity stuff. Yeah.
Yes, same charities. We'll be split between
Serious Fun Children's Network.
Serious Fun. It'll be split between Serious Fun Children's Network and Wags and Walks out of Nashville. Yeah, same program.
Worked out pretty well last year. So
super well. I was really, people ready. They did an amazing job providing that opportunity. It's a significant difference for these great charities. Significant.
We'll wrap it up there. We've got a couple more interviews, one-on-ones for you, Joseph, so stand by for that. But again, we'll wrap things up here at Texas Motor Speedway. Congratulations to Josef Newgarden, third win here at Texas and 26th of his IndyCar Series career.